Start off with verse number 2. Yeah, 2 through 7 is basically the subject of the millennial reign. The word millennium, all right, is Mille Annus, all right, that's Latin. Our word millennial reign or millennium comes from Mille Annus, all right. Now, in Greek, as you'll see in your Greek interlinear that you have right there, 6 times in Revelation 20, 2 through 7, Kilia Ete is used. All right, Kilia Ete, which means 1,000 years. Simple as that. Mille Annus, 1,000 years and 1,000 years. Now, your amillennial group say that the word millennium is not in the Bible. And say, well, it's not. It's not in the translation, but it's in the original. The 1,000-year reign of Christ is in the Bible. Simple as that. There's no doubts about that. Okay? Now let's look at Revelation 20 and verse number 2. Young lady, are you over there in verse number 20 and verse number 2?
Okay. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil, or Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. He threw him into the abyss and locked and sealed it over him to keep him from deceiving the nations anymore until the 1,000 years were ended.
How many times did you say 1,000 years so far? Okay, go ahead.
After that, he must be set free for a short time. I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge, and I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony for Jesus and because of the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or his image and had not received his mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years.
All right. Thank you. 1,000 years, 1,000 years, 1,000 years. 6 times the word 1,000 years is used. The word millennium is in the Bible. That is an English term that came from Latin, which means 1,000 years. So the word 1,000 years, the 1,000-year reign of Christ is in the Bible. Okay? As simple as that. It is not in the English translations of the Bible. So what? In the original language it's there. All right, Kilia Ete.
What difference does it make if you're saying
it's there.
millennium or 1,000?
All it is a word contest.
Okay.
That's all it is matching over words. It's in the original language. That's the most important thing. The Bible was written in Greek, wasn't it? It was translated into Latin by Jerome. All right? And he wrote down Mille Annus in there, 1,000 years, 6 times. Okay? And here it is. We see that 1,000 years in our Bible. All right? The word millennium means 1,000 years. It is a term from Latin that came into English. As simple as that. All right? Now let's take a look at some things, okay? This is what when I'd lecture on the millennial reign in systematic theology in the seminary, this is what I would use, all right? And I'm going from Thiessen's systematic theology, lectures in systematic theology. If you want to look it up later, you can do that. All right, the word millennium. We know what that means, don't we? Is the word millennium in the Bible then in all reality?
Well,
Sure it is. All right. It's not translated as such, but sure it's in the Bible. 6 times it's in the Bible. In Revelation 20, 2 through 7, okay? There's no debate about that. Now there's, I'm just going to read you what he says here. Word millennium comes from the Latin Mille Annus, meaning 1,000 years. Okay? We've got that already. The doctrine of the millennium is often spoken of as Kiliism. Right here, Kiliism. If you want to write that down someplace, Kiliism. People that believe in the millennium. Okay? 1,000 years. It holds that Christ will reign over the earthly kingdom for 1,000 years. That's real simple. But you would be surprised how many people do not believe in this very doctrine. Okay? It implies that Christ will come back before the millennium. Okay? That Christ will come back before the millennium. Now let's look up here our map on the wall. Let me shove this thing over here just a little bit. Brother Mike, you want to grab the camera? And aim it over here just for a minute so the world out there can see what else is going on. I wish I had a cameraman. See, yes, I need that.
Just put it on both.
All the way, this map shows God's whole plan of mankind, how He's dealt with mankind from the very beginning, and even angels and spirits and so on and so forth. We live in the church age today, probably toward the end of the church age. Okay. Now, if you look at these scriptures, someone asked me in the class this morning, where does the Bible teach about the regathering of Israel? I forgot. I said, look at the map. Look at the map. Right there, the regathering of Israel. Where does it talk about the dispersion of Israel? Israel dispersed. Okay? Now, the problem with the amillennialists and the postmillennialists, okay, for the first 300 years, all the churches believed in the millennial reign, what we call the premillennialism is what it was called. Premillennialism. There's postmillennialism and amillennialism, okay? The premillennial coming of Christ. Our church is this doctrinal statement saying we believe in the premillennial coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. So that Jesus Christ is going to come back. See here, the scriptures. It's got more scriptures than this in the Bible, but 1 Thessalonians 4, 16 and 7, it talks about the rapture of the saved. And they don't believe in the term rapture either. Okay? These amillennialists and postmillennialists do not believe in the term rapture. But the rapture is going to happen. What we believe is that at the end of this church age, now, who invented this postmillennial and amillennial idea? Do you know who the man was in church history? Augustine. All right. See, there's a sharp guy right there. Augustine. Augustine. What the one they call Saint Augustine or Augustine, if you want to pronounce his name that way. Okay.
When you're talking about post and pre, you're talking about where it will come.
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit more, but I'm going to explain that. Okay. Now, I believe in premillennial coming of Jesus Christ. Okay. We're in the church age. Okay. Now, Augustine and, of course, John Calvin and Martin Luther and most of what we call the Protestant Reformation did not believe in what we call the premillennial coming of Jesus Christ or the millennial reign of Christ. Did you know that? Most of them do not believe it. Okay? The church age, God set aside Israel. You know that. I know that. But a lot of the world doesn't realize it. Okay? During the church age, God set aside Israel because Israel did not receive her Messiah. So He set her aside. And she was dispersed. She was scattered. Jesus looked over at Jerusalem and He says, not many years from now, not many days from now, there will not be one stone left upon another stone. And He talked about the scattering out. Matthew 28, 18 through 28. 18 through 20, that is. We talk about the Great Commission. In the King James it says, go ye therefore into all the world. But what does it actually say in Greek? What's it say in Greek? After you've been scattered. And the command is not go ye therefore, but what? Make disciples. Okay? We're not going to go into that too much right now. But they were going to be scattered. This is prophetic. Israel was going to be scattered. But in the end of the age, it says, Ezekiel 36, 20 through 24, Israel will be gathered again. When did Israel become a nation again? May the 14th? I think it was 1948. That's when they became a nation again. That's when they were recognized. The next day, they had 5 nations attack them. The next day. Okay? Well, Israel is a nation again now. Many, what we call theologians, believe that if you watch the nation of Israel, you'll know how God is dealing with mankind. Okay? That's the way He's dealing with mankind. What part of the plan of God are we in today? We're probably close to the end of this church age that we are in today. And then will come the rapture of the church and all the saved, okay? The Lord's churches and all the saved. At that period of time, they'll be caught up with God. And then God will, in a very tremendous way, begin to deal with Israel. The tribulation period is coming upon this earth to lead Israel back to God. God is not finished with Israel yet. Okay? He's not finished with it. This 700 tribulation period is to bring Israel back to God so God can use them. Alright? So God can use them. Let me read you just a little bit more what this, I hope I'm not boring you to death with this. Okay? Some of it you probably never heard before. Alright? Christ implies that he will be coming back before the millennium. This is known as the doctrine of premillennialism. Okay? That's this term right here. And then it says, those who hold that Christ will come back after the period of universal peace and righteousness hold to the doctrine of postmillennialism. In other words, for many years, for probably 40 or 50 years as a convention, the Southern Baptist Convention believed in what we call postmillennialism. Did you know that? The Southern Baptist Convention, Brother John, you knew that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because I taught it sometime. You can flip it over around a
You
little
want
bit.
to leave it on both of them? Or
Well, just a little bit right there. That's
That's
you can
fine.
turn it back this way just a little bit. Okay. All right. The Southern Baptist Convention believed that they were going to bring in the millennium, that all the people in the world would be saved. They'd go out there and they'd take missionaries out in the world, and everybody would be saved, and they'd bring in a perfect golden age, and that God would come back and begin to rule on the earth when we got it converted. All right? That didn't happen. All right? What parable in the Bible did they use to teach that? Does anyone know? What parable in the Bible did they use to teach that doctrine? The parable of the woman that hid the leaven in the meal until it leavened the whole lump. And also the parable of the mustard tree. They used those two things to teach this, what we call God bringing, the whole world would be converted to Christ, and that God, after the world was converted, he'd come here and begin to reign. All right? The church would bring in the kingdom. But the Bible teaches that in the last days, it's not going to get better. It's going to get real bad. Okay? That's right here. This previews the coming attraction. All right? Where we are today. Okay? Now, and those who deny that there will be a millennium hold to the doctrine of amillennialism. A in the front of a Greek word basically is what?
No.
Means no. Okay? Of course, we got a Greek and Latin term here now. Amillennialism. The word millennium does not occur in the Bible, they say. But we know better than that now, don't we? Okay? We saw it 6 times in the Bible. So far. So far, 6 times in the Bible. Now, let's look at the fact of a millennial reign. Since the Bible talked about here in Revelation 22 through 7, and it uses the word 1,000-year and the word reign in there, and it emphasizes the 1,000-year reign of Christ, and we're going to go basically also back into some scriptures in the Old Testament showing the very reign of Christ on this earth. All right? Isaiah 11, 5 through 10. Someone go there. Isaiah 11, 5 through 10. Isaiah 9, 6 and 7. 2 Samuel 7, 12 through 17. Isaiah 35, 1 through 10. Daniel 2, 44 and 45. These are some of the scriptures. Okay. That's just wondering, what young lady, what do you have there?
Isaiah 35.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and read it.
Uh-huh.
The desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it will burst into bloom. It will rejoice greatly and shout for joy. The glory of Lebanon will be given to it, and the splendor of Carmel and Sharon. They will see the glory of the Lord, the splendor of our God. Strengthen the feeble hands, steady the knees that give way. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear, your God will come. He will come with vengeance, with divine retribution. He will come to save you. Then will the eyes of the blind be opened and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer and the mute tongue shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. The burning sand will become a pool, the thirsty ground bubbling spring. In the haunts where jackals once lay, grass and reeds and papyrus will grow, and a highway will be there. It will be called the way of holiness. The unclean will not journey on it. It will be for those who walk in the way. Wicked fools will not go about on it. No lion will be there, nor will any ferocious beast get up on it. They will not be found there, but only the redeemed will walk there.
Okay. That's a beautiful description of the millennium event. By the way, back in the garden, what happened to the earth? Because Adam sinned, what happened to the earth?
Cursed.
The earth was cursed. All right? Now, during this period of time over here before the flood, we find out in the Bible that all the beasts of the field lived together in harmony. They didn't kill each other at that period of time. All the lions ate grass and everything just, they all got along. There weren't any killing. And mankind, if you killed an animal, what was the punishment if you killed an animal?
We're killed.
You were to be killed. It was a death. If you killed an animal, you died, just like you killed a human. Okay, that was before the flood. Now after the flood, when Noah had taken all the actually God called the animals onto the ark. All right, and after the ark landed on Mount Ararat, and the animals took off from there, God changed their digestive systems. And he changed their ways, and man at that period of time then was given animals to eat, but not until then. When we get back over here to the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, everything's going to be like it was before the fall of mankind and before the flood. Okay? Is this helping you out a little bit? All right. The animal kingdom will be totally in harmony again, and the human element will be straightened out. Now God is ruling, so He's not going to allow any baloney. It's not going. He's going to rule. Israel will be ruling on this earth, and the Lord will be above this earth in what we call New Jerusalem with His bride up there, and Israel will be down on this earth regulating. For 1,000 years, there will be a Feast of Tabernacles every year, where people will go in and celebrate the feast of God's giving and their reaping. All right. For 1,000 years. So here we have that. Now, Isaiah 9, 6, and 7. Isaiah 9, 6, and 7. Dan, are you over there? Isaiah 9, 6, and 7?
I'm almost there.
Oh, right near, huh?
Yeah, real close.
Uh-huh.
My line, please. For unto us a child is born.
Yeah.
Unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end, upon the throne of David and over his kingdom, to order it and establish it with judgment and justice. From that time forward, even forever, the zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this.
All right. Now, all the way back into 2 Samuel 7, 12 through 17 now. 2 Samuel 7, 12 through 17. Basically, we're studying this period of time in the Judges. We're almost finished with that. Who is over there? Brother Randall, are you over there?
2 Samuel.
2 Samuel 7, or 2 Samuel 7, 12 through 17.
Oh, almost got it. Almost. When your days are complete and you lie down with your fathers, you will raise up your descendant after you, who will come forth from you, and I will establish his kingdom.
This is a dual prophecy, by the way. This is God talking to David, isn't it? All right, he's talking about what's going to happen here now.
You know?
Okay, go ahead.
He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. When he commits iniquity, I will correct him with the rod of men and the strokes of the sons of men. But my loving kindness shall not depart from him, as I took it away from Saul, whom I removed from before you. Your house and your kingdom shall endure before me forever. Your throne shall be established forever. In accordance with all these words and all this vision, so Nathan spoke to David.
All right, now Nathan is speaking to David. He's talking to David. Number one, this is what we call a dual prophecy, and dual means what? A double prophecy. Okay, a double prophecy. First of all, he said he's going to have a son, and that son's name we know in history was who? Solomon. Now, why Solomon did build a temple and everything else, but this was far-reaching. He said his throne will be forever. That's not talking about Solomon, people. That's talking about Jesus Christ. All right? And Jesus Christ is a descendant of David. We know that. We've got two lineages in the New Testament. The book of Matthew, that was Joseph's lineage, and the book of Luke, which is Mary's lineage. Okay? Very beautiful story there. Remember in the Old Testament when they came into the Promised Land and they wouldn't have an inheritance, that there was a rule, a exception to the rule about if a man had only daughters. Remember that? Where that whoever they married, that son he would adopt as his son, and he would become his son, and he would have the inheritance. Luke, the 3rd chapter, where I believe it is, where it gives Mary's lineage. What happened is Mary's father adopted Joseph, and he received her lineage because she probably didn't have any brothers. See, all right. So that's what happened there. Now let's look at another place here. Daniel 2:44 and 45. Daniel 2:44 and 45. That's way back yonder in the Old Testament. The book of Daniel in the lion's den and all of that, and that big old statue. Daniel 2:44 and 45. John, are you there?
Yes. And in the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed, and that kingdom will not be left for another people. It will be crushed and put an end to all these kingdoms, but it will itself endure forever. Inasmuch as you saw that a stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it crushed the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will take place in the future, so the dream is true and its interpretation is trustworthy.
All right, this is a prophecy of the Christ, of the Lord's kingdom again. He was the stone that the builders rejected, the stone that was cut out without hands. All this. This is the one, the rock of Israel. Jesus said, this is the most beautiful thing. This is mistranslated so many times. In Matthew 16 and 18, Peter had just made a profession of faith that he believed that Jesus was the Son of the living God, the only, you are the Son of God and the Christ. All right? He said, well, that's great. It wasn't your father over there by the Sea of Galilee that revealed that to you, but your Father from heaven. Okay? Then he said, you are Peter. You are Peter. You are Petros, a little stone, a little pebble, a little rock. Okay? But upon this gigantic foundational stone, Petra, I shall be building my church. Now, the Catholic Church believes that the Lord was founding his church upon Peter, but he was not. He said, you are Peter, but upon this you're Peter, a little stone, but upon this gigantic Petra, like the rock of Gibraltar, like Laurel Rock, great big gigantic rock, I shall be building my church, my ones called out, and what? The gates of hell shall not wrestle her down, but I'll be with you unto the end of the age. all right, that she would, yes.
Get off the subject here a little bit. Not really. But Mille Annus, when they translated that, what was the significance of the number 1,000 for the Hebrews? Could it signify something other than 1,000 years? Could it mean like a long period of time, or like an age?
Well, there are people say that
I've heard that.
about the Hebrew scriptures. Even letters meant something, and even in Greek, letters mean something. But there's a lot of books out right now about the codes of the Bible and everything that go a little bit too far with it in all reality. So how I interpret Scripture is literally, unless there is some absolute foundational thing that points us some other direction. There are things. I am Alpha and Omega. Jesus wasn't an A and a Z. What he meant is I am the eternal one. Okay? All right? A is, I am Alpha and Omega. I am Aleph and Tau in Hebrew. Okay? All right. So now we have established the fact, as a fact, there is a millennial reign from the Bible. Do you have any doubts about that? Your all-millennialists still will be, and your post-millennialists will not agree with us when the Lord is coming. They believe that they're going to bring in the kingdom. The Southern Baptist Convention believed that they were going to missionize and evangelize the whole world. Finally, after World War I and finally after World War II, they gave up the idea. They had quit listening to their teachers, like J.R. Graves and John A. Broadus, and these people that taught this. And they went into the Protestant idea of bringing in the kingdom. All right? So finally they laid that baloney aside and got back to Scripture. All right? They said, give us $3 million and we will evangelize the world and bring in the kingdom. Well, it would be nice if we could bring in the kingdom, wouldn't it? But that's not what the Bible teaches, is it? All right, let's go on a little further now. Are you learning something? All right.
So they all believe in millennium. It's just whether they believe when it occurs.
Some people don't believe in the millennium at all.
Well, I mean, okay.
Yeah.
But
They
I
don't
mean,
believe there's going to be a...
Pre and post both believe in it.
Some people believe today, what we call them, your hyper-Calvinists and all these people. Now, we have to realize, where did John Calvin get his theology?
Catholic Church.
He was a priest. He's a Catholic priest, okay? Where was Luther? What was he? A Catholic priest. And both of them were lawyers and priests, by the way. That's a double problem. Okay. And both of them studied in-depthly from Augustine's writing. Augustine believed in amillennialism. Augustine believed that Israel as a nation was completely wiped off the map. Luther called for the absolute destruction of all Jews. Did you know that? Martin Luther called for the destruction of all Jews. He called for there to be concentration camps set up and all of the Jewish men to be neutered and the women not allowed to propagate at all. And they were to be worked until they were gone and done with. Well, what Hitler did was just exactly what Luther had called for. The Lutheran Church was a state church of Germany, wasn't it? So what do we have? I mean, this shouldn't be a real surprise if you study church history. This is where it is. Now, much of your evangelical world, basically, today is not... A large portion of the evangelical world today is still amillennialist. And they are still what we call Brother X.
Well, I just wonder, how can anybody believe that if they read the...
They also believe in replacement theology. Have you heard that term? How many of you heard of replacement theology? That's where it changes the church for Israel. They just swap. God didn't swap. Israel is Israel, and the church is still the church. Okay? That's the way it is in the Bible. You can spiritualize away the Bible if you want to, but I don't. All right? Now, I want to ask you a question that my teachers used to ask me. Which is worse, not believing the Bible at all or spiritualizing it away? Plain teaching the Bible. Which one's worse? Spiritualizing away, you're arresting the Scriptures when you're doing that. Okay? Arresting the Scriptures.
Don't take away or add to my word.
Yeah. All right. Now, the fact of millennialism, first of all, the human intellect, the human expectation of a better time and a better place. All of the whole world is looking for a golden age, aren't they? In every, well, the Muslim world is looking for the golden age, aren't they?
Yeah, look at the wrong Muslims.
Yeah. Well, they believe that. That's what their theology is. Okay, they believe that. We have the Catholic Church that tried to go out and completely conquer and bring their millennium in. All right, they tried that. We had John Calvin that set up the city of God when Augustine wrote and about the wonderful city of God. He tried to put it in Switzerland up there. He tried to put in and regulate a millennium kingdom. All right, he tried to regulate it. He regulated morality and all that. I mean, he did it right there. There was no. You went to church. You paid your tithes because it was taken out of your pocketbook when you got paid. You paid tithes. And you went to church on Sunday or you went to jail. All right? The Catholic Church made a lot of converts in the Dark Ages by the edge of the sword. They took the sword, put it to people's necks, and they said, you either be baptized or die. One or the other. And of course the Muslims were chasing back and forth from Europe over there and back and forth from the Middle East to the Europe. And they chased each other back and forth with what we call the non-Christian crusades. There wasn't anything Christian about. Okay? Nor was the Muslim crusades anything to do with morality or anything. It was feudalism is what it was. All right. Even infidels look for a promise of a pure society where there is pure justice and everything. How many times have people tried to set up a society like that? Huh? How many times?
Oh,
About 6,000 years. About 6,000 years.
The secularists look for a golden age where they don't have to deal with Christians.
Yeah. Early church history now. History. See this word history here? In the early church history for the first 300 and basically 50 years, well, a little bit short of that, about 330 years. So Augustine came on the throne. He got in the way. Before Augustine got in the pathway and into the teaching circle in Alexandria, down in Egypt, all of the early churches believed in the premillennial kingdom of the Lord. All right? Or the premillennial coming and a millennium. Okay? All of them. They all believed that. And then there was a bunch of Baptists back there. They were Anabaptists. Okay? That's where we got our name. It was not a good term, Anabaptist. What does the word Anabaptist mean? Remember? Rebaptizer. We didn't accept anybody else's baptism. You come join us, you get baptized. And you get dipped by the authority of one of our churches. Okay? And they didn't accept anybody else's, so there was some Anabaptists back then called Montanists. And the Montanists really pushed this right here because they were Baptists. And Augustine so ran away from the other side of that he started teaching the amillennial idea. And there's where your problem in what became the Catholic Church. His teachings took over. And then where you have John Calvin and Martin Luther with the situation, it's just handed down to them today, okay? How many of you ever heard of the Didache? Have you heard the Epistle of Barnabas and all of that? You ever heard of those books? You know that every one of those books, you know what they teach? They preach in the premillennial coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. Every one of them. And a lot of these are old letters, but I'm not saying they're inspired of God, all of them, or anything. But they do teach one thing. That the Lord is coming back before the millennium. That there is a rapture, and there's going to be a real millennium on this earth. Of course, they got it from the Bible. So all the early churches taught that. All right. There is a plain teaching of Scripture that the millennium is coming. All right? And there's a promised kingdom in the God's Word, isn't there? We read about the promised kingdom tonight, didn't we? the promised kingdom of the Lord Jesus Christ's kingdom on this earth. Who's going to be reigning? Who's going to be who's going to be reigning? The Lord is going to be reigning. All right? Now, we have a revealed purpose in Christ. In Christ. He is called what? The great warrior, our great warrior that rides into the white horse, on a white horse in there with his soldiers behind him. His soldiers are there for one reason. That's what? Witnesses. All right? Witnesses. Matthew 25 and verse 31, Luke 19 and 12, and Revelation 19, 11, and 20 and verse 6, where we just read tonight. Matthew, Katamathion, the gospel according to Matthew. All right, Matthew 25 and verse 31. Matthew 25. Does anyone have that yet? Matthew 25, 31. Brother David, you over there anywhere? Not yet? Oh, all right, go ahead.
When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his throne in heavenly glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats.
All right. That's good enough. The Lord's going to come back. He's going to sit on his throne. All right? That's the way it is. Now, we can give many, many scriptures. We show all of these, all the ones that we already read tonight, that proves this. And what is going to be the character of the millennium? What's going to be the character of it? There's going to be true justice. And who are going to be the characters? Who are going to be the characters that are going to be in the millennial reign? Who's going to be there?
Israel.
Well, Israel's going to be there on this earth. All right, they're going to be. They're going to take their rightful place. Israel, when they rejected the Messiah, and then when they were unfaithful to the Lord, He took away from them the reins of the kingdom, their authority as the administrators of God's kingdom for a time. But there's something that they lost that they will never get back again. They laid it aside and they lost it. They have no more chance. What was that? Israel was the bride of God. Israel was the bride of God. But Israel was unfaithful. She was a harlot. All right? She will never have the chance. Israel could have been with the Lord in New Jerusalem, sitting beside His side. But Israel lost that chance forever. Okay, that's done with. All right? The church and Israel are two separate entities. Israel had the opportunity at one time to be the bride of God. But when she was unfaithful to Him, she lost that. But because of her promise to Abraham and to David, all right, now those promises are, we in the Bible, Israel as being the bride of God, what do we call that kind of a promise? Or that kind of covenant? Conditional. That's a conditional covenant. And what does a conditional covenant mean? That there are conditions for fulfillment of that covenant. Now, the covenant that God made with Abraham, okay. The covenant that God made with Abraham was what kind of a covenant was that?
Unconditional.
Unconditional. All right? So we have a conditional covenant, we have an unconditional covenant. The covenant that God made with David, what kind of covenant was that? Unconditional covenant. The type of your salvation today, what kind of a covenant is that with God? That's unconditional. Unconditional. Because it's only the Lord that does the saving. All right? In the persons, the actors in the millennial reign, we're going to have Israel there. We're going to have the saved there, saved people in all ages, all the way from Adam all the way up through this tribulation period. There's going to be at least 1/3 of the Jews left. There's going to be at least 144,000 Jews that are sealed to go into the millennial reign in their real living bodies. 5 out of every 6 Gentiles in the world is going to be killed, but there's going to be 1/6 that go in there in their living, breathing bodies, okay, to repopulate the earth. These are the
That means
actors.
they're saved, right?
Evidently they are. All right. These people are going to be populating the earth again. Women will and men will live probably 1,000 years at least. If you were born in the beginning of it, you will live a whole 1,000 years. Some of them will probably live more than 1,000 years, maybe 1,050 years. I don't know how old the people are when they go into the millennium. Some of them. All right? But they're going to be alive in their bodies, and they're going to be populating the earth again. Women, how many children can a woman have? Literally possible. How many eggs are there in a woman's womb? Do you know? Huh? How many? 1,000. All right. Eve probably had 1,000 children. All right. Eve probably had 1,000 children. The curses will be lifted over there. The women are going to have children. There's not going to be any disease or anything like that at all. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be like back in the garden again. But what is the whole purpose of the millennium? Just kind of think about that one too for a moment. What is the whole purpose of the millennium? Why? Why a millennium? 1,000 years without the devil. The devil was in the garden, wasn't he? And when God approached Adam, all right, when he approached Adam, he said, Adam, Hayaka. That's what he said in Hebrew. What have you done? What have you done? Did you eat? He said, that woman you gave me. And then what did she say? The devil made me do it. Something like that in Hebrew. The devil made me do it. He made me do it. The devil, he approached me. All right? In the millennium, where's the devil going to be? Gone. Out of the way. And at the end of that millennium, when the devil is turned loose, see all of these scriptures that go along with this little map? The devil's going to go out and he's going to gather up his troops. Because some of them are going to serve the Lord because they have to. Many of them are going to serve the Lord because they want to, but some of them are going to be there simply because it's regulated. That's the way it's got to be. He's going to rule the world and the nations with what? A rod of iron. He will not put up with any blowing. There's going to be perfect righteousness, but at the end, there are going to be people that are still going to go astray without. Now, they have seen God, okay? There aren't going to be any agnostics there. There is not going to be one atheist at all, but they're still going to go away from God. As simple as that, all right? Now, the Lord's churches are going to be the bride of Christ. Those are the true New Testament churches that have served the Lord during this period of time today, that we live in today, and all the way through the ages. This is His bride. But there's going to be a lot of saved people there too. All right? There's going to be a whole lot of saved people there. But we have the church and we have the saved people also. We got Israel there. All right? We've got Israel. And we have nations. Nations. There's going to be nations on the earth still. Nations. All right?
Will the realization of the people be such that they know they're in the millennial age?
Yep, they're going to know they're in the millennial age. They're in the millennial kingdom of the Lord. I mean, it's very plain. Every year, they're going to have a Feast of Tabernacles. What did the Feast of Tabernacles teach? What did the Feast of Tabernacles teach in the Old Testament?
God dwelling with His people.
All right, over here we got the tabernacle up here. See this? All right, tabernacle. God, The tabernacle taught that God wanted to dwell with his people. Now about the Feast of Tabernacles. That's different than this tabernacle. What did the Feast of Tabernacles teach? That God had provided for everybody. The Feast of Tabernacles happened at the harvest time. It's like Halloween time. It's called what we call a harvest festival. Okay? And they went out and they'd already had the Feast of First Fruits and all this, and now we have the Feast of Tabernacles. This is where they built little lean-tos where they stayed out. This typified their journey in the wilderness. Now, what was out there in the wilderness? When Israel went out in the wilderness for 40 years, all right, what was out in the wilderness? Ooh, the meal. What was out there? Nothing. There wasn't enough food to eat. There wasn't any water. Nothing. God led Israel into the wilderness to teach them to trust Him. You have to depend upon me. And God provided shelter. What were these sukkahs, what were these tabernacles made out of? Thank you, Dakota. What were these tabernacles made out of? What was the material that they were made out of when they had this Feast of Tabernacles?
Sea cow skin?
Huh?
Sea cow skin?
What?
Skin of the sea cow?
No. It was what they were made out of. They put up poles and stuff. They would use old palm leaves. They would use for a cover. It wasn't a total cover, but they would have a shade of palm leaves, and they would take and hang vegetables and fruits, and they would take straw and cover the roofs and straw underneath that they could lay on. In other words, God provided all the materials to cover and shelter them anyway. The Feast of Tabernacles that they're going to have for at least 1,000 of them during the millennial reign is going to keep saying to them, I am providing for you. There's no more stickers that set on the ground. There aren't any more stickers. You're not going to have any more thorns and thistles. The earth is producing to its fullest. The deserts are going to be turned into paradises. All right? Paradiso. That comes from a Persian word, Paris. All right? It came into Hebrew as Paris, a paradise. It came into the Greek as paradiso, and then it came into the English language as a paradise. What does all of those terms mean? Paradise. The millennial reign will be a paradise. It is a guarded pleasure park. That's literally what it is. A guarded pleasure park. The earth will be a pleasure to live in. Beautiful, beautiful pleasure. It says there, and we have looked at many of the scriptures, and I think Isaiah 35. Isaiah 35. Did we go there? I don't think we went to Isaiah 35, did we? Brother John, you over there in Isaiah, the book of Isaiah? Isaiah 35, 1 through 10. Did we go there? Isaiah 35. Take a look at that. Are you there?
Yeah. Isaiah 35, the wilderness and the desert will be glad, and the Arabah will rejoice and blossom like the crocus. It will blossom profusely and rejoice with rejoicing and shout of joy. The glory of Lebanon will be given to it, the majesty of Carmel and Sharon. They will see the glory of the Lord, the majesty of our God. Encourage the exhausted and strengthen the feeble. Say to those with anxious heart, take courage, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance. The recompense of God will come, and he will save you. Then the eyes of the blind will be opened, and the ears of the deaf will be unstopped, and the lame will leap like a deer, And the tongue of the dumb will shout for joy, for waters will break forth in the wilderness, and streams in the Arabah. And the scorched land will become a pool, and the thirsty ground springs of water, and the haunt of jackals is resting place. Grass becomes reeds and rushes, and a highway will be there, a roadside, and it will be called the highway of holiness. The unclean will not travel on it, but it will be for him who walks that way, and fools will not wander on it. No lamb will be there, nor will any vicious beast go up on it. These will not be found there, but the redeemed will walk there, and the ransomed of the Lord will return, and come with joyful shouting to Zion. With everlasting joy upon their heads, they will find gladness and joy, and sorrow and sighing will flee away.
All right. That's beautiful, isn't it? That's what we got to look forward to over there. It says that the lion will lay down with the lamb, and not in the lion's belly. It'll lay down with the lamb. It says that a child will play with a cobra, and he'll be saved. It's going to be plaything then. No animal is going to kill each other. It's going to revert back to what it was before Noah and in the garden. Why did God create animals to begin with? For the pleasure and companions of mankind. That's what animals were created. Animals were not created for you to eat originally. Okay? They were created to be your companions. Before Adam had Isha, all right, that's woman. That woman means out of man. Before he had woman, he had animals to play with. All right? That's what he played with. That's what he communed with. And that was it. And then it says that he was not happy, so God gave him a woman. That means out of man. If Bill was here, he would make some joke out of that. All right. We have, as regards to the nations, all right, does it name some specific nations that rebelled and specific nations in the millennial reign? At the end of millennial reign, who are going to be some of the nations that stand up against God? Does it name some of them? Gog and Magog. All right.
Russia.
That's Russia. All right. And as regards to Satan, does Satan still exist in the millennial reign? Where is he? Revelation 27-9. He's down here for a while. For the whole 1,000 years, for the millennial reign, he is put away. He's out of the way. All right. In regards to nature, go ahead. You've got.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a question about when Satan comes back and deceives people, and at the end of the millennial reign, the saved that come back to live on the earth, they can't be deceived by Satan,
No.
can they?
No.
Right.
But there are people there
But
that
they're
will be forcibly forced. There will be people there that will be forcibly forced to live in a good life. It's going to be regulated. The earth will be regulated. This is going to be Augustine's city of God and Calvin's city of God. You know, this is going to be like it is. It's going to be. They tried to regulate in the world today. The Lord is the only one. The Lord is the only one that's going to bring in millennium. We can't do it. It's not going to happen. You can't regulate morality. It's not going to happen in any nations. It's going to be the Lord that does that. All right, the Lord's going to do that. Nature will be changed. No more thorns, no more thistles. No more wild, vicious beasts. Not going to happen. Nature will be changed in the millennium. I'm going to guarantee you, if somebody thinks they're going to go out and convert the world for Christ and bring in the millennium, what are they going to do with the wild animals? You still got problems with them, don't you? You're going to convert the animals? Only God can turn a lion into a cow. That's not going to happen. Only God can take the venom out of a rattlesnake and a cobra. Only God can do that. That's not something you're not going to convert the animal kingdom. Probably easier to convert animals than it is humans sometimes. Because they just don't happen. How about in the conditions in general that we look about as we look at the millennial state? Conditions in general. All of the scriptures that we've read tonight, what does it speak of? Rest. 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 The millennial kingdom is a rest for the earth. It's the rest for the devil weary. Those that are weary of Satan. It is a rest for the animal kingdom.
Would that be connected to the seventh day Sabbath?
Yeah. It's like the Sabbath. Barnabas, the epistle of Barnabas, said that the earth was looking for its Sabbath. For 6,000 years, man would rule, and the 7,000 year. This is the epistle of Barnabas. This was written, a long time ago. He said the 7,000 year is its seventh. That's the perfect kingdom. Number 7 is perfection, and that's the 1,000 years that the Lord will reign upon this earth. Man is going to be given 6,000. The 7,000 is going to be the Lord's. All right.
That's pretty close.
Well, that's what Barnabas said back then. Like I said, I'm not saying that was a completely inspired epistle, but that's what Barnabas said. That's what all the early churches believed. Until Augustine got a hold of it. Yes, Brother Dan.
Will life on earth be as we know it? I mean, will we be able to go places with a car and stuff like that?
I don't think that we're going to be having automobiles. We probably won't have any oil companies.
Won't have any
To
oil.
rip us off. We won't have any we won't have any drug companies ripping us off or anything like that. We're not going to have any problems like that. I think that we're going to go back to some old time traveling, just like the nomads did back in that time. Abraham, when he went to the Ur of the Chaldees, and one scripture says he was in the Ur of the Chaldees, the next day he's over here in the Promised Land, in Canaan. But I'm going to tell you something. There was a lot of travel in between, a lot of camping. I think we're going to do a lot of camping in this world. How many of you like to go camping?
Well, yeah.
Anybody like to go camping? All right.
She did like sleeping in tents.
We're the RV campers.
What I used to,
Yeah, we can't have our motor home.
when I was young, I lived in the mountains a lot. I would go up in the mountains, and in the wintertime, it would snow all on the ground and everything out there. I would be out hunting lions or raccoons or whatever, bobcats or something, or deer hunting even sometimes. I would go out there and I'd have my clothes on, and if I got tired walking, I just laid right down and went to sleep under a bush. And I'd sleep as long as I wanted to. I was young. Marilyn and I got married 10 years ago. And one of the first things we did went up on Greenhorn Mountain. We went camping. We got a tent. We got some sleeping bags and all that kind of stuff, and a bunch of blankets, and we put out there. And in 1972, I got my back hurt really bad, just about destroyed. And meanwhile, it's got hurt 2 or 3 more times since then, pretty bad. Well, we were up there, and this was 10 years ago. We set up the tent, and I put down everything in there. I got in the sleeping bag, and boy, within an hour, I was dying. I couldn't lay. I used to lay down in the snowbanks on the ground. I laid out on drilling rigs out there, shaking and banging and going on, and went to sleep right in the mud and everything else. But my body does not agree. We bought a motorhome the first time. It was a 1972 Revcon, I think it was. We went out first time we went camping, we went out to Buena Vista. Went out there in that thing, and it had hard foam rubber beds in it. I laid down on one. Within 1 hour, I was up and out of there dying. Same thing it was up there. Up there on Greenhorn Mountain, Maryland and Dakota slept in the sleeping bags together. I went over there and set up and reclined the seat in my pickup. I could not sleep on that ground anymore. I went out there, I slept in the seat of the pickup. I couldn't stand it.
The first time we went camping, somebody got up and went home in the middle of the night.
But you know what? I remember when I was in good shape. We're not going to have any ailments over there. We can go climb a mountain if we want to. We can do whatever we want to. there isn't going to be any limitations like there is today. How would you like to be able to do what you do when you could when you were 16 years old or so, or 18 or 20 or 30, some of it? It's good.
What
Yes.
about food?
What?
Food.
Food.
Yeah, I mean,
God is going to produce all of the food that the earth is going to produce all the food we have. Now, those that are saved, I think we can eat if we want to, and we don't have to eat if we don't want to. And I think we're just going to be moving through dimensions, just like Jesus moved through dimensions. He walked through doors that weren't open. All this kind of stuff. I think we'll be able to do that because we've had changed bodies. But the people on the earth will have real bodies, still with certain amount of limitations. All right, they'll still sleep, they'll still eat, they'll need rest and everything else. All of this. So there's going to be some during the millennial reign now. We're not talking about eternity. We're going to get into eternity later. All right, the eternal
So-
age, the new heaven and new earth. Yes.
the people that's already been resurrected up, are they going to come back during that time?
I think we'll come back to the earth. We'll witness those feasts and everything with the Lord. The Lord, the church and all the saved, many of the saved, are going to live in New Jerusalem. Okay? And those people have already been redeemed. They have glorified bodies. But there's going to be all these people during the millennial reign that don't have glorified bodies. They're living down on the earth in physical bodies, populating the earth again. Okay? So we got two groups, at least different groups of people there. We got the glorified bodies, and then we got here. Now in the end, this great white throne judgment, then we have all of these people judged here for what they did for this 1,000 years. Okay? And then of course the Lord's churches are going to be judging with him. They're even going to judge angels. All right? Any other questions? Is this interesting to you? Whatever. I mean, we're still going. Just like, yes.
Hey, you talking about that Feast of Tabernacles?
Yeah.
Okay, the Jews always held the Feast of Tabernacles. What about the Christians?
Well, we're going to have a Feast of Tabernacles on this earth because it's going to show that God is providing for all mankind. They come and they worship God, and they have a Feast of Tabernacles, and that's a thank you feast. It's Thanksgiving feast is what it is. Thanksgiving feast. Of course, every day in heaven, in New Jerusalem, we're going to have a Thanksgiving feast. You know, because the Lord has done, we're redeemed up there. Down on the earth, they're not totally redeemed yet. They're still living down on this earth. They're going to be judged at the end.
Jim, we just need to keep in mind that there'll be the raptured group and then there'll be natural group on earth, huh?
Yes, two different groups.
Now, are they going to plant crops and stuff like that?
Yes. They will plant. It says that they're going to take the swords and pound them into pruning shears and plows, and they're going to plant the earth. And the earth, well, we're not going to have Roundup or anything like that. We won't have to have fertilizers. The earth is going to be just produced to its full. When Adam sinned, God told him, by the sweat of your nostrils, that's literally what he says, by the sweat of your nostrils, you will earn your bread. The hand, your bread. Okay? And it says, to earth you shall go. All right? To earth you shall go. All right? He would earn his living by the sweat of his nostrils, by the sweat. He was going to work hard. He was going to have to work now. The earth produced everything he had before. It was a paradise. But now it's no longer a paradise. When Cain sinned, Cain was a what? What was his occupation? A farmer. So he was a farmer. And what he did is he said, looky here. He didn't bring an animal for a sacrifice. He brought the fruit of the ground. But the problem there is he brought a cursed offering to the Lord because the ground was cursed. Not only that, but he didn't bring the right amount. He brought the wrong amount, and he brought a cursed offering from a cursed ground. All right? He didn't bring it. Another extra.
Well, what about Adam and Eve? Didn't they make offerings?
Yes, they did.
What did they make?
At the time, after the fall.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam and Eve. Okay, they were. How many of you heard in the Bible about angels? You know what angels are? Angelos, all right, Mille. These are angels. Okay. Now, every time you see angels in the Bible, Do you, are they naked? Well, they look like. Huh? What do they look like? They're wearing what?
Clothes.
White apparel, shining bright white apparel. That white apparel is the glory of God. That's what Adam and Eve wore before the sin, was that beautiful glory of God. Once they sinned, they became naked. All right? There may be some naked angels running around out there too. All right? But they became naked, and then God clothed them. He clothed them with animal skins. What happened to the animal before you get the skin off of it? It has to die. So they made animal sacrifices. But something innocent died for something guilty. That's what the Lord did. That's the sacrifice of the Lord, okay? Something innocent died for something guilty. As simple as that. That's the same old story. What?
They didn't bring grain or anything.
No. No, they didn't bring grain. They did bring grain offerings and everything during the Feast of Tabernacles. They had the first fruits, the offering of the first fruits. The first fruits basically typified the resurrection. You put seed in the ground, it dies, and it resurrects and comes back and produces more. That's kind of like the glorified body. It was a type of the resurrection. All of the first fruits was a type of the resurrection. The tabernacles, the Feast of Tabernacles was that God provided for His people. And there'll be at least 1,000 Feast of Tabernacles during the millennial reign.
And we'll
You're
have to
just
work.
you're just not ready to quit, are you? We've
I
gone.
don't want to work.
Sheila.
I have a question on Romans 11, verses 25 and probably 26.
What's that about?
It says, "For I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in.
Yeah.
And so all Israel will be saved, as it is written. The deliverer will come out of Zion, and he will turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins."
Okay, when the Lord, first of all, we looked at the prophecies of Jesus. The messianic credentials of Jesus for Christ were what? The premillennial messianic credentials of Jesus were what? That He would heal the blind specifically. No man ever healed the blind. He would raise the dead and He would heal the sick. That was His credentials. And that's what we call the God sample case of millennial blessings over here. Okay? Now all Israel will be saved at the end of all Israel that's on this earth, right here that makes it to the right here. All Israel that makes it to the end of the tribulation, every one of them is going to be saved. Every one of them that makes it to the end, all right, will be saved. The Lord Jesus, when He came, He showed forth His power over sickness and death and blindness and everything, didn't He? During the millennial reign, no one is going to be blind or anything. Right here, during His early ministry here, He went out healing. These were His credentials as the Messiah. He was the Messiah. He was the son of David that was going to be on the throne. And He did heal the blind. He healed the lepers. He raised the dead. All of this, exactly the power over the earth and the natural world that God usurps here over all nature. Jesus calmed the storm down on the Sea of Galilee, didn't He? He had complete control over nature. He will have complete control over nature. There won't be any storms. You know why you have storms today? You know why you have tornadoes? The devil. It's not the Lord doing it. It's the devil. All right? In the millennium, all of that is going to be totally controlled atmosphere. You got anything else? Or I turn you loose on the world. Anything else? Have we covered the millennium now? Is that all right, Shirley?
Mm-hmm.
Is this better? Okay. I didn't want to leave you half undone. All right. Well, go out and do something eternal this week. Go out and do something for the Lord. All right. Come back next week. We'll go on from there. We didn't get into much. I usually teach you a little bit of Greek at the same time. We didn't do much of that today, but come back next week. We'll do it. We'll get back into it some more. We got a couple of chapters to go, almost, and we'll get into that. And then Maybe on Sunday night I'm going to teach the book of Genesis from Hebrew. We're going to translate the Bible. We are not going to interpret it. We're going to translate the Bible, not interpret it.
You gonna have on your cowboy outfit?
Oh, next Sunday? I'll put on the Indian outfit. How's that? I'll put on maybe I'll wear my ribbon shirt or something. I don't know. I'll have a cowboy hat on.
Wear your white one.
Your what?
Cowboy.
What? You know, she wants me to wear a white hat all the time. That thing's heavy and hot. In the wintertime, I wear that white hat. In the summertime, I'm going to wear a straw hat. All right. You ready to go? All right. Brother Randall, would you dismiss us in prayer, brother?
Our God and Father, we thank you for your word, we thank you for your sound teaching, Brother Jim. We pray that you watch over him, his health concerns, from your own as well. Pray that you bring us back safely next week. Thank you for your word. Thank you for blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I'll give you something else to pray about this week. I'm having a lot of trouble with my throat, as you see. I'm not able to preach.